trunking protocol. As you remember, last week we have discussed virtual local area network, and this is just the next step of VLAN, virtual local area network. So what we'll talk about today, we'll talk about the role of VLAN trunking protocol, why we need it, what is VLAN, what is VTP. We will talk about the operation of VTP. We'll learn how to configure VTP on switches. Before we start before I start working on packet tracer to configure VTP on switches, I want to give you a brief hint that why we need VTP, why we need to configure VTP on our switches. Right. As you remember that in last week we have talked about VLAN when we have to configure switches for VLAN. If you imagine that if we have 10 linked switches, or even 20, or maybe 50, or maybe 100, so more we will have switches to configure for VLAN. We will have it will be a massive task. So rather than manually configuring all these different switches for all these 100 VLANs, it is much easier to configure from one switch. Then that particular switch will disseminate these VLANs information to all other switches. So that is why we need VTP, and VTP gives us this opportunity to create virtual LANs on one server and then disseminate to all other switches. So on one server switch and then disseminate from server to all other client switches. So let's have a look on packet tracer how we can create VTP. So we are going to take one switch. Let's see, 2960. Okay, one more. Then let's name it. Okay, that's fine. Let's go to CLI command line interface, and I type enable to go to executive mode, privilege mode. Sorry, from user executive mode to privilege mode. To go to privilege mode, I'm using enable. Then I'm typing conf t configure terminal to go to global configuration mode. And as I'm here, first of all, let me show you what we have to do in the beginning of VTP configuration. Yes, so we have to create a domain for VTP. So what we'll do is just for your information, we'll make this switch as a server and this switch as a client. Let's take more switch. One here, again another one is here. So 4 switches, and I will make this switch as server and then rest of them as client. Okay. Right. So as I've said earlier here that I have to create domain for VTP. VTP domain, say LSDM. Okay, press enter. Now you can see it is written changing VTP domain name from null to LSBM. So by default domain name is null, or there is nothing on domain name, so it has been changed to LSBM now. Next, what we have to do is, by default any switch is in server mode. We may transfer it to server mode or we may not. by default it is already in server mode, so we don't have to do. But if you want, you can still write VTP mode server, and it will be in server. It will show you that it is already in server mode. Let's have a look. VTP mode server. Sorry, VTP mode server, and it will show you, and as you can see, it is showing you device mode already VTP server, right? So it is in server mode. So let's go back, press Ctrl Z, and you are going back to privilege mode. Now if you write show VLAN, oh sorry, there is no VLAN, we haven't created any VLAN so far. So let's try to see VTP, show VTP status, right? Yes, as you can see here, it is showing VTP version 2, configuration revision is 0, as this is the initial stage. So these are all by default, and maximum VLAN supported locally is 255, and number of existing VLANs 5. If you remember, the first VLAN is VLAN 1, which is by default, and then 4 other VLANs starting from 101 to 105 for FDDI and token ring. So this altogether 5 VLANs by default. Then VTP operating mode is server, VTP domain name is LSDM, it was initially null, now it has changed to LSDM. VTP proning mode, by default it is disabled. I will talk about VTP proning mode later on. VTP version 2 mode is disabled, VTP trust generation disabled. At the moment we don't need to talk about that much about this. When we need it we will talk about this. Okay. Let's go back to configuration terminal mode, or let's type configuration terminal to go to a global configuration mode. Okay, and then we'll create VLAN for example 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 30, VLAN 40, right? Okay, Ctrl Z. We are now back in privilege mode. Now if I type VLAN, show VLAN, let's see what it shows. Yes, these VLAN 10, 20, 30 and 40, they are created. Okay, and other, as you can see, 1002 to 1005 FDDI default token ring, FDRNet and TRNet by default. So these are the by default VLANs, and we have created 4 more VLANs. Okay. Now let's go to this switch. We go to CLI command line interface, press enter, type EN. To go to privilege mode, you type show VLAN. As you understand, there would not be any new VLAN what we have created on the other switch, as you can see there is no link between them, right? Okay, and if you also want to know VTP status, let's have a look. Same as on the other switch here, similar VTP status, VTP version 2, configuration 0 by default, VLAN supported locally 255, number of extensions 5, VTP operating mode server. That is the one you need to remember, that by default that all switches are in server mode. So you have to change it to client mode, switch 1. So I need to go to global configuration mode, and then I need to type VTP mode client, and as you can see, setting device to VTP client mode. Right now, again, as I said, that all switches they should be in one VTP domain. So I have to write VTP main LSBM. Make sure that the domain name is case sensitive, so we need to make sure that we write the correct name always, right? As you can see now, changing VTP domain name from null to LSBM. Okay. So Control Z. Again, if you want to see VTP status, let's see any changes. Yes, VTP operating mode has changed to client, VTP domain name has changed to LSBM, the rest of them are same, right? Now, what we'll do is we'll connect these two switches using crossover cable. Okay, we'll go to the switch 0, global configuration mode. We'll go back to global configuration mode, and then we'll create now trunk. Okay, so this will be not access mode, access mode, it will be trunk. Okay, so right, I'll check the port first. If first Ethernet 0/1, so right, interface first Ethernet 0/1, then I will write switch port mode trunk. As you can see, it was down, now it has gone to up. They changed state to up, so it's good sign. Now I will write switch. Rather than I will press up arrow button, switch mode trunk. Then I will write trunk allow VLAN, say 1 to 99. As you know that we have created 4 VLANs, VLAN 10, 20, 30 and 40. So all of them are here. So that is fine. So we are allowing all of them. Okay. So it's done. It is accepted. Control Z. So now this switch as client, it should learn all these VLANs from switch 0 or server. Okay. So let's have a look first on switch 0. If I type show VLAN, it will show you all the VLANs. Let's have a look to switch 1. Type show VLAN. These VLANs are here. So that is the advantage of VTP, is that if we configure one switch as server for VLAN, then all these VLAN information can be disseminated to all other switches, and they can learn from server about this VLAN. Okay, so good. Now what we will do is we have learned about VTP server, VTP client, and now there are 3 types of VTP. We have client, server and transparent. Let's have a look what is transparent. Yes, so there are 3 modes of VTP. One is server, one is client and one is transparent. What transparent means, it forwards VTP traffic but do not originate or use those information about VLAN. So they can have their own VLANs, but they don't share these VLANs information with other switches. So that is what is called transparent. So let's do it. Let's make this switch as transparent. So we'll go to this switch command line interface mode. We'll type en. We'll write show VLAN just to find out whether it has already those VLANs, though we are sure that these VLANs would not be there. So as you can see, there is no 10, 20, 30 or 40 VLAN. So I'll go to the global configuration mode, and then I will write VTP mode transparent, and as you can see, it is showing setting device to VTP transparent mode. And also now I need to write it belongs to same VTP domain, so it should be VTP domain LSDM, right? And as you can see, it has changed to null to LSDM. That's fine. Now should it should not learn about VLANs from other client. Let me show you. So this switch will not learn about VLANs from this switch, but what it can do is it can pass about this VLAN information to this switch. Okay, so let me connect. If we come out from configuration mode, if I show VLAN again, it doesn't show those VLANs, right? What about VTP status? If I write show VTP status, then yes, it shows it is transparent. It has transparent. It is in transparent mode. The domain name of this VTP is LSDM, and rest of them are by default, right? Okay, so it has got this particular switch too has learned about these VLANs, but it is not showing, because only what transparent mode does, that it passes information, it passes VLANs information to somebody else, but not for itself. So let me go to this switch CLI. Okay, before I go to configuration, global configuration mode, let's see VLAN. There is no VLAN like 20, 10, 20, 30 and 40. So, and what about VTP status? Yes, as usual, no domain name. By default it is in server mode. Okay, so we need to make it client. So I need to go to global configuration mode, VTP mode client, right, and also VTP domain LSDM, right. Now then we can connect. Come out from it and write show VTP status to see whether it has updated information or not. Yes, it is now in client mode, and the domain name of this VTP is LSDM. What about VLAN? Okay, so far we can't see any 10, 20, 30 or 40 VLAN because we haven't made this one as trunk, and also we haven't made this one as trunk. Okay, so let's make this one trunk F0/2. To base 0/2. Right, this is 0/2. Okay. Oh, no, sorry, should be here. should go here and go -2, then write switch port mod trunk and change the state to up now. Then I press up arrow button, then I write switch port trunk mode, sorry, trunk allowed VLAN 1399. It has accepted. Good. And I should make this one as well as trunk. So I made this one trunk and should make this one as trunk. Okay. So I'll go switch 1 now. So click on from page 0/2/2 trunk. Press enter. Change the state to up. Okay, good. So I press up arrow button. Switch port trunk allowed VLAN 1/99. 1/9 not sorry not slash 1-99 means 1 to 99. The center is done. Okay, now so all of these are trunk. I have made them as trunk. Now let's go back to switch 2 and see whether it has learned about VLAN. So press Ctrl Z, type show VLAN. It still doesn't show, right? But you go to switch 3, it should show you. Ctrl Z, open I show VLAN, it should show you all VLAN. See? Amazing, isn't it? So yes, so that is the difference between transparent client and server mode of VTP. So let me label it. So this one I have used as server, this one client, and client. Okay, hopefully you have understood what I have tried to explain here. If you have any question, please see me in the class. Thank you very much.